And finally, tomorrow, July the 1st, is when international travel gets turned back on again. We see Knock coming back into action, Shannon getting reasonable number of flights, Cork returning to action, the two Belfast airports, and we see 80 scheduled departures from Dublin Airport. Most of the major destinations are in there, and judging from what is happening on the Ryanair website, quite a few of those seats will be filled.
There's some very good packages out of Dublin to, say, Lanzarote, the Algarve, and even Turkey. So they're hard nuts and bolts products that can be delivered to the clients with a certain amount of confidence.
We are actually now business as usual in Spain, open for business with these 21 guidelines. They are COVID-free, and we have a new seal, responsible tourism, ISO compliance, ISO, International Standard Organization compliance. So they are fully compliant at international level, and they've been praised by the European Commission.
Passengers, are flying again, and airlines are restarting strongly. It could be slightly slower in Europe, in which it's more fragmented, than in the US, in which it's a unified country with no internal borders.
They cover golf, swimming pools, active tourism. They cover hospitality in the airport. Everything is amazing. So
today's guidance can give a chance of a better season for the many Europeans whose livelihood depends on tourism. And, of course, for those who would like to travel this summer.
Green reset, sustainable tourism, aligned with the Agenda 2030.
Not everybody is happy about that. Over the weekend we saw a serious push by the health authorities that international travel is not advised inbound or outbound.
And you'd like people to cancel their holidays if they've booked, yeah?
We would like people not to travel.
Global solidarity is very important.
Yes, and for some people, I know people will have made bookings. I think it makes much more sense to not go ahead with that booking than to risk travelling abroad, picking up this infection. The risks for you, for any family members that are travelling with you, or indeed any close contacts you would have when you come back.
Please don't politicize this virus. It exploits the differences you have.
Spain, in the end, if you remember, they are not going to reciprocate. So it's not going to happen with the UK, it's not going to happen with Ireland. So regardless you have a quarantine or not, Spain is not going to put up a quarantine.
And while the reins of government were being handed over, the new health minister joined with that advice. We have a new transport minister, Eamon Ryan of the Green Party, and a new tourism minister, Catherine Martin of the Green Party.
A sector of the economy and requires a business and economic ministry. So we're very disappointed where we've ended up.
What that means in terms of policy changes remains to be seen, but it is a fragile time for the travel industry and the hospitality industry inbound.
We will have a Herculean task to get out of this. We are confident that we can do it. We bounced back before from crisis. We're confident we can do it, but we have to get a fair wind. We have to hopefully get a benign sort of external environment, but crucially, with the things we can control in terms of government and in terms of regulation have got to go.
The EASA ECDC document into a thing called the Code of Practice. So it's the Irish implementation of the EASA ECDC protocol, but they're stuck. They've had an agreed draft from key stakeholders, ourselves, Ryanair, airports, and others, for weeks, but they haven't progressed it to finalisation or published it because I believe they're still discussing it with the Department of Health. Again, this is what's happening all over Europe. It's the European protocol. It's the standard. And again, in that area and in the area of travel restrictions and quarantine, Ireland is just weeks behind the rest of Europe.
The word back from the travel trade is that bookings are very slow, still processing refunds, and some of them deciding to try and stimulate a little bit of activity of their own. They're seeing bookings for later in the year and for 2021.
As we're grinding along, it's becoming more and more clear that there's an awful lot of very nervous people out there.
I think people have lost confidence I think even if the DFA in the morning said there is non-essential travel is removed and self-isolation on return is gone, I still don't think that's enough. If we can see a bit of a light at the end of the tunnel, I think there could be a bit of a run in pre-Christmas, people who want to get away.
But consumer sentiment very hard to judge, and the surveys that are coming back say that up to 2/3 of people think it will be 2021 before we start travelling seriously again.
About 2 days ago, I came to the conclusion that 2020 is a write-off.
It's going to be a new experience through the airport, with masks, with as little contact as possible, and on board with masks being worn and no queuing for the toilets. Boarding and deplaning will be done by small groups.
You know, the boarding process will be a limited number of rows boarding together, called by rows. So the normal scrum that we're used to just won't happen. Some
of Europe's airports are offering thermal checking and some are offering COVID checks. The price of these have come down. €190 was the asking price when they were first introduced in Helsinki and Vienna.
Everything is in place, and there will be even more news because there are some regions working on wrists, intelligent wrists. Others, they're working on an app. So this is an ongoing process. But some of them are on offer through the airports of Europe for €50 or €60, 7 or 8 hour wait in some cases. Frankfurt, for example, offers a shorter option, more expensive in 3 hours, and another one in 7 hours. You have to keep the distance, you have to wear a mask, you have to, several things you have to do even when you travel. You have to person locating form. It is going to take the return of the first holidaymakers and the first suntans to make out what the consumer sentiment is for travel in the summer of 2020.
Given that we have now product to sell, albeit that we don't know about the quarantine times and the 14 days and the travel instruction or advisory from the government, once we are in a position to demonstrate,
price might kickstart people, but I think this pandemic has really scared people, and people are sort of really wrote this summer off. So trying to get people back in the air and convince them to go is going to be hard. The only way we can do that if those few people do go and they're posting their holidays on social media and things like that to say that it's okay.
So there is what we call numerus clausus in Latin. So we have a close number of people that has to be in beaches, in pools.
The eastbound routes are already in action. Etihad were first to kick in. Emirates followed a week later. Turkish a week later. Qatar, who flew all the way through the crisis, they increased from 2 weekly to 7 weekly. The coming week will see the westbound services resume, with Air Canada returning on Thursday, American Airlines and United Airlines returning next week. With all these aircraft in the sky, what will happen? Passengers who do not wish to travel, they booked well in advance of this, they're nervous about it, and they make the choice not to show. They will be looking for refunds from the airlines, but more importantly, under the Package Holiday Directive, they'll be looking for refunds because another part of the package will have fallen out of the equation.
Bind between the supplier operating the service and the client being told by the government, you are entitled to cancel and you're entitled to a refund. Where does that leave the travel agent who doesn't have the money? In that we've given the money to the supplier, as we were supposed to do.
What's going to happen is coming down the tracks for August, September bookings, when airlines begin to fly, but you have to pay a fair difference. And some of those fair differences are quite high, especially going into next year. That little nugget of information, nobody mentions that.
100 days of coronavirus. We'd like to see an end to the uncertainty. We may have to wait for that.
Until we know in our own country what our own hotels are going to be like, what's the experience going to be like, what do we do when we go into a restaurant, what's that going to be like? We have to know what it's going to be like here before we know, we can visualise what it's going to be like in Spain or Portugal or any country.
My name is Eoghan Corry. Travelwrap is commissioned by the Irish Travel Agents Association. The views here are my own.
A number of cases that have been identified that have been linked to travel.
Which country, for overseas country?
Iraq.